Well, good morning. It's Brent Adams here with your Rural Strong Morning Ag Report for this Tuesday, February 13th. Coming to you this morning from Kansas City, Missouri. We're having some internet difficulties this morning, so we're going to do things just a little bit differently. Leading off the headlines this morning, Iowa Senators Chuck Grassley and Joni Ernst are pressing the Department of Education for clarity regarding Question 22 on the new free application for federal student aid. They're especially concerned that the way the agency chooses to ask the question will force students to list the net worth of family farms as assets. Current ambiguities could cut off farm kids from needed financial aid and make it less feasible for them to attend college. The question fundamentally misunderstands how the family farm operates, as the stream of revenue for crops and livestock varies significantly year over year, and assets cannot get cashed out to support a loan in the same capacity as traditional investments, the senators wrote in a letter to the Department of Education. They continued in the letter, "We reiterate our concern with the nature of this question and the lack of insight on how the adjusted formula will impact students from an agricultural background." Will the USDA's February global corn production forecast note a lower outlook for Brazil's total production? Here with the details is USDA Radio's Rod Bain.
Brazil this time of year focuses on soybean harvest and planting of second crop corn. And much like the bean crop in Brazil, USDA's February outlook expects lower corn production in that nation.
This is a crop that's just being planted, so it's a little bit too soon to start talking about yield expectations, but this is reflecting a reduction in area expectations, planted area. Given the fact that prices are relatively soft, there's not an incentive there to increase area, so that's the reasoning behind our 3 million ton cut in Brazil's production forecast.
World Agricultural Outlook Board Chair Mark Jekanowski says the Brazilian corn production reduction is behind a similar adjustment down for global corn production forecast. That translates in the world corn balance sheet to month-over-month lowering of categories, including a tightening of ending stocks.
Will the USDA's latest world wheat production forecast note a month-over-month increase, adding to a near-record production total? Here again is Rod Bain.
Another upward mark for world wheat production, per USDA's February global outlook.
Production, we raised about 800,000 tons this month from January. It's going to be the second largest crop on record.
And the highlights by country and producing region, according to World Agricultural Outlook Board Chair Mark Jekanowski.
We raised Argentina's production by 500,000 tons. EU, we dropped by 300,000 tons. We're also looking at some final production estimates from Kazakhstan and others.
Several export forecasts by country were also increased this month by USDA.
Including Ukraine, also raised our export forecast for Australia and Argentina.
Minimal changes occurred in the U.S. wheat balance sheet. Notable, though, was incorporation of USDA's flour milling product report.
That showed lower than expected wheat food use in the U.S. It was actually the lowest reported domestic flour milling since that series has been collected.
I'm Rod Bain reporting for the U.S. Department of Agriculture in Washington, D.C.
Well, Farm Bill efforts are intensifying despite seemingly long odds again this year. The American Farm Bureau Federation and other farm groups are not taking no for an answer despite the huge election year Farm Bill hurdles and a quickly closing legislative window. American Farm Bureau Federation Managing Director of Government Affairs, Ryan Yates.
Farm Bureau is a great convener of people. Our offices are going to be stacked between now and May with Farm Bureau members from across the country. All of them will be going to the Hill
to bring the grassroots push for a farm bill and other key ag issues directly to lawmakers. But American Farm Bureau Federation's Farm Bill campaign goes further.
We have a campaign, Farm Bill for America's Families. We've got interest from hunger, nutrition, conservation, farm commodities, all working together to leverage one message, and that's we need to get a farm bill done.
And despite the different priorities, to unite the entire farm and food system behind that goal.
From conservation, food, nutrition, agriculture, I think the one continued message is we need a farm bill, we need a good farm bill, and we need to get it done.
The 2018 Farm Bill expired at the end of September and was extended 1 year, but its subsidies and provisions are outdated given inflation, higher interest rates, and lingering supply chain pandemic impacts. And finally this morning, with the U.S. beef herd at record low levels, producers may finally be thinking of starting a rebuild. Dr. Dan Tracy of Beef Technical Services with Zoetis says it's a big decision.
There's a lot of things we need to take in consideration. I'm glad to see that rebuilding of the herd because that's a good thing because we're in a state where we probably need to be. The considerations we need to make is there's a lot dependent on these heifers because they make up the history of the herd moving forward. They set the pace of the herd moving forward. So we want to select heifers more towards the beginning in that calving season because we know they stay in the herd longer. We know their offspring outperform reproductively and on the steer end production-wise too. So we made that commitment to do so.
The rebuilding begins with selecting the right heifers.
But we know there's also a value money that we have to spend on these heifers until we get them into the pre-breeding phase as far as feed, vaccines, veterinary care as far as doing some reproductive scores or pelvic measures. And we know there's a cost on a per calf to pay that back. We also taking advantage of new technology as far as genomics to actually identify those replacements earlier, depending on where we want to meet our genetic expectation of the herd moving forward, so we can make decisions about that heifer earlier, whether we market her as more of the beef industry or we continue forward or bring her to a part of being a replacement.
Again, that was Dr. Dan Tracy of Zoetis. Well, you can keep up with the latest from the world of agriculture by subscribing to the Tractors and Troubadours podcast from Rural Strong Media. Each week, I bring you agriculture industry newsmakers, hot-button industry issues, educational features, and the best in traditional country music. The Tractors and Troubadours podcast can be found at ruralstrongmedia.com or wherever you get your podcasts. We also invite you to join us daily on Rural Strong Radio, our 24/7 streaming radio station found at ruralstrongmedia.com or the Live 365 streaming radio app for your mobile device. Each day we bring you our award-winning agriculture programming, as well as the best in traditional country music, mixed in with a little bluegrass, western swing, southern rock, and inspirational music. Again, the place to find Rural Strong Radio is ruralstrongmedia.com or the Live 365 streaming radio app. We're portable, so take us with you everywhere you go while you're working on the farm or ranch. Let's get through the workday together. Well, I'll be traveling tomorrow, but be back again on Thursday from the National Farm Machinery Show in Louisville, Kentucky. Until then, make it a great day, everybody.